Hello, you're welcome back to our biology class here in Direct Stars. Okay, so prior to our previous lesson, we talked about the kingdoms of life and we made mention of the five classification. The we also made mention of the five kingdoms. We made mention of the scientist who uh, proposed the five kingdom classification in the year 1969. And then we talked a little about the the kingdoms of life. So today we're going to be talking about the characteristics or looking a bit more into each of these kingdoms. So when we talk about the kingdoms of life, let's start with the first kingdom. We have the kingdom Monera. Here are examples are the bacteria. Further examples of bacteria are the eubacteria and the archaebacteria. What differentiates a eubacteria from an archaebacteria? Eubacteria are the most recent form of bacteria here on Earth, while the archaebacteria are the ancient bacteria. So biologists believe that these archaebacteria were like the early form of life on Earth. They, their organelles are quite different from that of the eubacteria. The archaebacteria can survive any kind of weather or atmosphere. They can withstand high temperatures, even up to 200 atmosphere. They can be found in really hot climates and really cold climates. You can find them at the bottom of the sea. They're able to withstand that weather. And you can even find them at the volcanoes. They're able to withstand the hotness and they don't die like that. Okay, so that's for Kingdom Monera. Next comes Kingdom Protista. Examples of the Kingdom Protista are the protozoans. When we talk about the protozoans, we're talking about we're simply talking about the protists. Examples of protists, we have the amoebas, we have the paramecium, we have the euglena, and also we have the chlamydomonas. So these are examples of protozoans or protists. Okay. Next comes the kingdom fungi. When we talk about the kingdom fungi, examples, we have the mushrooms, we have the yeast, we have the molds. Examples of molds, you find them in bread, call them the bread molds. That is that growth that you find on top of a stale bread. And then the yeast that we use for baking, and then the mushrooms, all types of mushrooms. They are called fungi. One of the characteristics of the fungi is that they exhibit a saprophytic mode of nutrition. Saprophytic mode of nutrition. What do we mean by the word saprophytic? So that is, in other words, fungi are saprophytes. So organisms that exhibit a saprophytic mode of nutrition are those organisms that don't ingest their food. They simply secrete an enzyme that digests their food extracellularly, that is outside of their body. Then after this food is being digested by the enzymes, their body then absorbs this food and use it for growth and other life processes. So this is what we mean when we talk about saprophytic mode of nutrition or the saprophytes. Now let's move over to the fourth kingdom. We have the kingdom Plantae. In the kingdom Plantae, when we talk about the kingdom Plantae, we're talking about all the plants, all the living things that exist as plants on Earth. they are all classified under the kingdom Plantae. Further subdivisions of the kingdom Plantae, we have the bryophytes, or let's call them the bryophyta. We have the talophyta. We have the brachyphyta. And we also have the pteridophyta. Okay, so these are all examples of um, under the kingdom planting. So there are some plants that are classified based on the way they are as bryophytes, as talophytes, as stratiophytes, and pteridophytes. So even further subdivisions, uh, you're going to find the seed-bearing plants, that's the gymnosperms, the angiosperms, the seed-bearing plants, and the non-seed-bearing plants. So all plant types are all found under the kingdom Plantae, be it mosses or ferns or liverworts, they are all under the kingdom Plantae. And then finally, the kingdom Animalia. Let's take a look at some of the characteristics. The first characteristics here says that all multicellular eukaryotes are heterotrophs and they lack cell walls in this kingdom. So in this particular kingdom, all the organisms you find here are multicellular. When I talk about multicellular, what do I mean? Multicellular. When I say they are multicellular, that means they have more than one cell. For example, the human body is made up of billions and billions and billions of cells. And then when we talk about heterotrophs, heterotrophs are organisms that cannot manufacture their own food by themselves. In contrast to autotrophs. Autotrophs, you find them in the kingdom Plantae. Autotrophs are green plants that are able to synthesize or manufacture their own food by themselves through the process of photosynthesis. But heterotrophs can't do that. For instance, the goats, the lions, even we humans, we don't manufacture our food by ourselves. We don't feed through photosynthesis. We kind of like depend whether directly or indirectly on plants for our own food. So this gives us the name heterotrophs. And when you take a look at our cells, the eukaryotic cells, okay, yes, all multicellular animals, all organisms under the kingdom Animalia, all possess an eukaryotic cell because we have a nucleus in our cells that houses our genes and DNA and everything that has to do with the passing on of characteristics and traits. So our cell lacks a cell wall, in contrast to the plant cell that has a rigid cell wall. So this is one of the characteristics. Another characteristic is that the animals are directly or indirectly dependent on plant for food, like I made mention earlier in the case of heterotrophs. Next, holozoic nutrition. Animals exhibit what we call holozoic nutrition. Just as we talked about the saprophytic nutrition, that is a mode of nutrition. Now another mode of nutrition, holozoic nutrition. Holozoic nutrition, what do we mean by holozoic nutrition? That is, we kind of like encompass, okay, holozoic nutrition encompasses ingestion of food and then the use of an internal cavity for digestion of the food. That is, we practically putting this food into our mouths. That is the act of ingestion. And then there are specific or specified organs and systems that are inside us that help to carry out digestion. So we don't exhibit extracellular digestion. We exhibit our digestion inside our body. Okay, so next we have many of the animals are adept for locomotion, just like the goats, the cows, humans. One major characteristics about us is that we are motile or mobile. We are not static like the plants, even though the plants move, but they are not motile. So animals move from one place to another in search of their food. And finally, they reproduce by sexual mode of reproduction. I'm sure by now you've heard about the sexual reproduction and asexual reproduction. So for animals, all animals exhibit sexual mode of reproduction. Okay, so I think we're going to be stopping here for now in our class. Thank you so much for joining. Please do well to subscribe and give a thumbs up to this video. Thank you so much for joining. Hope to see you in our next class. Bye for now.